We like to win every time, right?
Yes.
So that's what I like to call it. Probably should put the title back, huh? This is probably equal to the class I did last Monday as far as a favorite for me, because I get energized by both calling and prospecting and getting opportunities to do the presentation, and then doing the presentation. There's nothing actually more exciting to me in the real estate business as a sales agent than doing listing presentations. Like, if you could set me up with one every hour, I'd be happy, and you'd be really happy with my results. So and there's a lot to go into. So when I talk about it, the detail about what I think you should do and how you do it is very, very important. And we're going to talk much about that today. So let's begin. How do I win at the listing appointment every time? Here's some of the things we're going to do. We're going to review the key points on preparing for your appointment that are critical in winning at the appointment. So, just going to the appointment isn't really it. It's properly preparing for the appointment. It's very, very critical. No problem. Nice to see you. Christy got you all set this morning.
Yeah.
Good. Show you key insights on a proven strategy and techniques that strengthen the ratio of obtaining signed listing agreements for the terms you propose. Is that very important? Absolutely. So, getting signed agreements, I could do that all day long. But getting signed agreements with the correct terms is another thing altogether. Because if I just went in and just tell me anything you want me to do and just sign this paper, that'd be great. I could come back with a lot more signed agreements, absolutely. But unless they're done with the terms that are correct, then it's really not a good thing at all. And we're going to talk about that. Step 2, the presentation to demonstrate techniques on every aspect of the appointment. The walkthrough, the seating arrangement, the body language, the hot buttons, determining the decision maker, and handling objections. Those are all parts of doing this. So let's begin. How do I prepare? So pre-appointment qualifying. So there's no true value in going on a listing appointment unless the sellers are they actually prepared to hire somebody. So there are dialogue and scripts. So it says here, use a listing pre-appointment script. That with those that you're in the intensity program, you were emailed that this morning. Those that are not, you would just go to the back office under the Ask Luxy, and you can type listing appointment, and it gives you all of this stuff. But there are certain questions that are, essential in getting answers to before you would ever go on an appointment. And if you don't get the right answers, then I don't feel that it's appropriate for you to go on an appointment because you're not spending your valuable time correctly. And if any of you already read it, I haven't seen it since the last time I taught. I know the questions on it almost by heart because I memorized it and knew how to do it. And I'll just give you some of the bigger questions that are on there. And that would be, if you like what I say when I arrive, are you prepared to hire me? Now, what is that saying? See, these are very important questions. What does that allude to? The fact that, are you ready to do business? Because if the answer is no, then, I'm going to probably divert and try to hold off and reschedule for another time. Because unless they're ready to hire me, why am I doing all that? Okay. Another question, are all the decision makers going to be present at the appointment? Very important question. Oh no, the husband will be at work. Well, there's no purpose for me going to that option again because I can't execute and do a listing and get a true listing agreement signed without the decision makers or the owners of the property being there or the decision makers. Okay, so I didn't say owners, I said decision makers, because if there's people that have to make the decision to do it, I need to be able to present to them. Because it's like the way people get out of things, and you don't want to allow that to happen. So what does that mean if they say no? So for me, I would immediately say, okay, well, I just want you to know my day starts at 6 a.m. and I'm usually still going to about midnight. Which time would be better so that I can meet all of you? I give them no room. And they may say, well, Scott, just come over and, tell me, and then I'll relay it to them. You can't do that. It's out. It's the opportunity for you never to get that business. You have to embrace your time. You have to present it. They can't represent what you present. And so you say, I appreciate that you would, try to do that, but I likely, find that it's really difficult because I have a huge amount of things that I cover. There's a lot of detail. I'm available for the questions. So, I'm prepared. Again, I'm up at 6 a.m. and I'm still up at midnight, and so we can change the time, and any time in between those hours, but I'll and then reset. Another good question would be that's on there. I was kind of curious what you think your home is worth. Why would I want to ask that?
See if you're in the same ballpark.
Well, not the same. That's part,
Realistic.
but more or less, what's it going to look like when I share the value of the property at the listing appointment? What am I expecting for a reaction? Where's my game got to be in my listing presentation to overcome reality? Come back to reality of price, and so you want to strategize yourself and get prepared. So qualifying the seller's desires, expectations, and needs before the live appointment. So you want to, have enough conversation with them to try to, kind of understand. So, why are we selling? How soon do you need the home sold? Are you, do you need to cash out? These are all questions on there if anyone's got it. So pretty good, eh? Why the word cash out means you're not going to hold financing, right? And so anyways, you can literally have that authority and go through it. May I ask, in the last 3 years, what kind of, any updates to the property in the last 3 or 4 years? What are they? What do I need that stuff for? So you can do your CMA, right? Now, in this, I'm talking, general real estate. If you're doing the luxury side, you're not going to do that. You're going to go visit the home and take your own notes and it's a 2-step process for them, especially. So you're going to pre-qualify them. If you don't do this stuff and you say, okay, you wanted me to come over and show you, great, I'll be there at 6. You can't do a CMA really good without knowing some details, how old is the roof, how old is the AC, what kind of updates have been done, and those sorts of things. 1, 2, you're going to get there and there's only going to be one person, and now you're probably going to spend all that time and you're not going to get the business. You have no idea what they want for price, and then you're going to come in and you're going to go into price, and then there's just totally on another planet, and you're going to be less prepared to bring them back to reality, and it's going to be more stringent for you to do. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, let's go forward. So you need to strategically be prepared for the appointment. What is a hot button? Hot buttons are really trying to pull out of people what their beliefs are and what we do and expectations and those sorts of things. It's what the seller believes and wants. Okay. And it could be how we service them, what they think we should do. And the whole thing you're trying to do is get the correct information or pull out of the individuals what you can to help you fulfill, giving your presentation to fulfill those wants and desires and beliefs. Okay? It's important you do that. So understand how to strategize in preparing yourself for the appointment. You'll be able to move past objections easier and successfully if you know that. Then adjust your presentation to be more powerful at earning the job. Does that make sense? So here's something I want to ask you. How do you feel that, if you know you're going to deal with objections, do you feel it's important that you try to encourage the objections to come out or just avoid having the objections exist? Encourage them to come out because they're going to be there, and unless you're presented with the objections, you can't overcome the objections. So I can understand how we might feel, well, if I just avoid that, then I won't have to try to, discuss or get past the objection. If I just avoid the objection or not have it come out, well, guess what? That's when you get to the end of the appointment and they're going to say, well, we're going to think about it. Let us think about it. Well, that means you have objections that have not been settled. That's all that means, and you need to bring it out. So the more valuable way to do a presentation is to seek the objections and try to pull them out. Because when you can pull them out, then you can move past them. And the ability and skill set to move past them is what gives you the opportunity to earn the business. So that's very, very critical that you try to seek to pull the objections out and then settle the objections or handle the objections and move past them in a way that they agree and confirm that you acceptably, solve the objection. Okay? So, let's talk forward. Creating the CMA. And so, first of all, when I did CMAs, a little bit back in time, not dramatically back in time, but they didn't have these like automated systems that you have now, like Cloud CMA and RPR and whatever. I guess the Zillow style, let me tell you what the price is. I have, so my old skill abilities give me the natural desire to feel uncomfortable even that some products like that exist. If you're pushing a button and they're telling you how much, the CMA price is on a home because they're data-driven things, and there's no person that went in there and really observed the house to be able to determine this. Okay, so is it safe for me to say to you, and can you comprehend, you could have two identical homes, obviously not on the exact same lot, but two identical sized lots next door to each other, and one house is blue and one house is yellow. They're both 10 years old, and there's a fairly dramatic difference in value.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we all agree with that.
Yes.
And what typically will be the factors on why there's a difference in value?
The amenities and the upgrades.
No, they're identical.
Oh, that.
So the one could, yes, so no, I take that back. So one could have remodeled the interior kitchen and baths. And then another, so there's two variables.
There could be a lot premium.
Nope, they're next door to each other. The lots are essentially the same lot. Well, sort of,
Perception.
no, main, okay. So somebody, you know, if you've been out in houses at all, you know, there's some people take more pride in ownership than others, okay. Okay, so why would we, you know, where in the world could we expect that we would pay the same amount for the house, the two homes? It can't happen. So when you're using those systems, they don't have that data, folks. So they can't make a judgment. So if you, you said, per square foot, that doesn't register with me because I don't register per square foot because again, that element in itself, well, how come this one's $100 per square foot and this 120? They're the same house, same lot. Well, they should be that difference because one was this abused, never cleaned up, the carpets are ripped to shreds, the dog peed on them, they're all ripped up, they never painted the walls, there's holes in the walls, they never changed the air filters in a day in their life, and these people, man, they're manicured to the hilt, and they just take super pride, so so you can't use that because there's some square footage, right? So if it was that way, but I want to talk more about other ways to strategize. So I manually went in, old-fashioned, observed the listings one at a time by finding the geographical area and doing it really the old school way. And then I could make adequate judgments based on understanding the subject property. And I had to take enough notes on the subject property to be able to do that. So you have to ask those kind of questions. And, how old is the AC? How old is the roof? What kind of updates have been done? And you may be more insistent. Have you done any, kind of tell me a little bit, what kind of appliances do you have in the kitchen? Kind of countertops are in the kitchen as well as the bathrooms. What do you think is the most fantastic thing about your home that would be valuable to a buyer? Those kind of things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about CMA strategy. So when I did CMAs, I did things a little different than what you know because I actually utilized the CMA to help me. Okay, all right. So bear with me, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So a CMA can demonstrate the quality of your marketing, right? So if you had property listings and you then print out some of your own listings, you should, if you were to go back in time and look at Scott Barrett's listings, you would know which ones are my listings because I did some very distinctive things in mine that were helpful in the power of my marketing and helpful to make me distinguished among everyone else. And so part of you getting business in the real estate world is doing something a little different, a little bit standoutish. One of the things I did personally, I had a lot of waterfront property. So there's a value because you're on the water, right? That in itself is a value to folks. So when you saw my primary image in MLS, you didn't just see the front elevation. You saw the water view, you saw the beautiful pool and the beautiful kitchen usually. It was 4 images in one. And we have a tool in our back office that creates those. And they got a ton more attention. But I basically trademarked my listings. And so realtors, as soon as they saw it in MLS, they're up there, Scott's listing, because mine were unique. But when I can show that kind of stuff at the listing appointment, it differentiates me from everyone else. So now it serves as a marketing tool to help me leverage that. Also, whenever I created my public remarks, I had a heck of a time because they only allowed me 1,020 characters. And so I'd write this thing out and it'd be a beautiful piece, and it was always 1,300 or 1,400 characters, so I had to really ramp it down. It was really hard to do. Okay? Rather than like the opposite. You know, there's some listings in the MLS that pretty pitiful descriptions, aren't they? Mm-hmm. You know, they just don't no pride at all. And so again, I used it there. Completeness of data. In the time I was doing it, you didn't have to put 0 room measurements. Who would like to have that? I hope you say no, because I measured every room and put every measurement in. The completeness of the data in the MLS listing that I did was all the way. I'm not the lazy realtor. I'm the one that shares everything. So I didn't have to worry about a buyer agent calling me and wanting to know the size of a room, because the family coming down was going to bring their heirloom dining room outfit if it would fit, because they had the information there. So it made a difference in that. And because there's such a lack in general of agents doing that quality of work and just getting in only what they have to do, it gives you an advantage point. And because most of the listings that you're going to show them in the CMA, because unless you use the RPR, the cloud, and does the fancy stuff, mine were raw MLS listings, and so they could see it. The other thing I did was I always included expireds, withdrawals and expireds, because homes don't always sell, right? And there were a couple things that were always considered in the expireds and withdrawals that I included. They may just happen to be, you know, a more prominent agent in the neighborhood where I'm trying to do business, and they generally would show the 2 reasons that the homes may not sell. They obviously were probably overpriced or offered a low commission. So when you offer too low of a commission, you get less activity. When your home is overpriced, it don't sell. Okay, so that makes sense, right? The other thing that I think some of the systems you use today do this, but I never had an exact price. I had a range of value. So if you use our tool in the back office, you put in a range of value, and there's a target. So the target amount always was the amount that I felt super confident was the right price. And that was my mid number. The mid number in our sheet is larger. I'll show you. Cool one. It was just all make believe, so this don't match. But so your CMA, you know, can look really nice. But on the back of this page, it's a little bit bigger. So that's that's the price. And then you have a little bit of a sway. Okay. Therefore, you're not so concrete, right? But this is really the magic number is the number in the middle. Okay. The number in the middle represents pretty much almost what I think will sell for. If you were to look back in my history, it would show that my listings sold for over an average 98% of the list price. Because there's no reason to have haggle room, right? So the sellers always go, well, they're gonna offer less. Not true. Not true. If they shop, they're gonna realize you're asking the right price for the home, and they don't have a need to haggle because they already know your home is priced right. But what you're doing is upping the game about how much activity you're gonna drive through the door because you priced it correctly. Okay, that's absolute fact. So, whether or not you convince them of that is a different story. It's how you present and how much time you take to carefully show them how that works is really then your determination of how they accept that. So, could I go as high as the 480 or as low as the 440? Yes. There's two ways I can explain that. Okay. What are the two ways? Two ways could say, there's two variables that I could use to embrace that. One is how long do you have before you want to sell? What undoubtedly happens is they say, well, Scott, I wanted to sell it yesterday. 10 days and I need to be out of here, but I want that price up there. Well, those two don't match, right? So you want super fast sale, above average time selling, quicker sale, but you want to price it for a longer sale price, right? So the two don't match. So if you want quick sale, you have to scoot under a little bit. If we have time, we might be able to go a little bit above, right? Okay. The other is, just as I explained before, you can go into the property and it's a lesser maintained property than the average property that your comps show, and say, so that'll be a very delicate conversation, but you may have to say, to get to this price point, let's list out some things you're going to have to do to the property, and so then they have to make a determination not whether they're going to go out and do all these little fixes and repairs or accept to go a lower price. So one of the two things have to happen. So, have pocket comps. So it's very almost every time when you go into a neighborhood and you do your comparables, you should seek to see all properties and all opportunities. Maybe even look at Zillow and stuff and see what physicals are around, things like that. Because you're gonna a lot of times find this one oddball listing that's priced out of this world. Some magical number is gonna happen. Somebody's gonna sell a magical price. Not. It's an active listing, probably been sitting there since 2010. But you always have to be prepared because the owner's going to say, yes, but the house down the road, right? So you don't put that in the CMA because it don't belong there, but you have it printed out so that when they bring that up, I was kind of afraid you were going to mention that home, but it makes sense because you always want the best price, right? You must be talking about this one. And so, anybody can ask anything they want for anything they have, but the reality is it's just been sitting there, and they're not selling. And that obviously was, I hope to think it wasn't the skill of the realtor. It's obviously the owner dictating to the realtor what they expect to list the home for, not the realtor telling them what they have to do if they want to really sell it. Like you were going to say something, Michael. Have you been through that?
I was going to give you an example. There's a house right here, across the street. 800 and something days it's been on Zillow.
Yep.
You
I've
try
seen
talking
some-
to the people, and they don't want to talk to anybody.
I've seen them for 4 years.
Yeah.
But so you also measure what the the seriousness of the client to sell, right? Because really no obvious need that they have to sell. Nobody's going to sit there and wait 4 years if they have to sell the property, right? So it's important. Any questions about any of that? That's not really, I didn't teach you how to do a CMA, teach you how to maybe consider some elements of a CMA that help you, okay, with your presentation and or trying to establish some distinction about how you're monitoring. One moment, please. Let's skip back. Any questions about that? Does it, does that really make sense to you? Okay.
Steph, what did you say about the tool in the back office? There's this, is it the CMA tool also? Or?
It's not a CMA tool, it's in the handouts.
Oh, just the script?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So be prepared for a yes. I hope that's what we're all prepared for, right? So I guess the listening appointment, once you have a yes, you want it to go quick. Go quick. Okay. Okay. Have your listing paperwork filled in and ready to be signed with everything but the list price. Okay. So you type it out, you print the package. The only thing, I mean, you besides the questions that the seller has to answer, not questions, you don't answer questions on behalf of the seller, but their name, the tax ID number, the address of the property, the commission, all that stuff is pre-filled out, typed in, printed that way. And effectively all you have to do is, within your range, what's the magic price tag we're going to start with, and plug that in. Okay? You need to change something, do it on the spot. So if you have to negotiate something that was already typed in, you can do that. You don't do that until you try to handle that objection and overcome whatever that change is. If you're not expecting to have to make that change, and there's certain things that might be a negotiable factor, but you want to be able to just write in the list price and sign it. Very important, because we don't tell you or dictate to you what you have to ask for commission, but if you don't fill that in and you take it and you then fill it in front of them, what does that say right there? It's a negotiable item, right? If it's pre-printed in there, then it's not negotiable, or they don't see it as a negotiable item. So that's very important. Be prepared for a yes. Everything filled out, all you have to do is write it. Okay. Strategy for pre-completed documents. Making it simple for the seller to sign. Simply add the list price, step through the sellers through the documents with a pen in hand. It's imperative that you understand what these things say. You need to read them, understand them. You need to be able to summarize every paragraph in the listing agreement with one sentence, essentially. The way I do it is you push it in front of them. You basically say, I'm not telling you not to read this, and if you want to read every word, please, that would be important that you do that. I would want you to do that. If you'd like, I'll summarize it. And then I'll say, this is this, this is this, this is this. Any questions? Initial here. Flip it over, go to the next page. This means this, this means this. So you better know what basically the paragraph means to do that. Commission is already a predetermined amount because you've printed it on there. When I did the business, they're going, I would say 75% of the listings were 6% 10 years ago. The rest of it was either 5 or 7. Okay. So when I went to appointment, my listing agreement always said 7%. because it said 7%, I can probably say I've made a few extra $1,000 in my real estate career because my ability to get 7% was increased. I probably say about 20% of my listings ended up at 7%, and the rest no less than 6. Maybe I shouldn't say the rest no less, but maybe very rare occasion could have been less, but predetermined amount, and you can establish that. If you put 5% in there, I mean, just expect to get 6%. If you put 7, you get 6. 6, and it could be at 5 again. I don't know. So you make that determination. Length of listing is a predetermined. So how much time is a listing generally?
6 months.
6 months, and I would, figure out the day, to the day. Okay. So when can that be a different amount of time? Should it ever be less than 6 months? Never. Never. And I say never, and you have the privilege to do something different. When should it be more than 6 months?
Vacant land, it's harder to sell luxury homes.
Yes. Harder properties to sell. So whenever I listed a home that was probably 800 and up, that was probably my marker. It was usually a 1-year listing agreement. So
Why never less than 6 months? What if somebody's in a rush to sell or something? Is there?
because it takes an adequate amount to sell property of time. Obviously there's a good chance if they're pricing it to sell, it's just gonna sell quickly. But they need to give you an appropriate amount of time to sell property. If you only list for 90 days, that's super crunch time, and you put a lot of time and effort and expense. When in a listing of property, where is most of your cost invested?
Upfront.
In the first week.
And you're spending all this time doing all this work, and then if you give up the listing too early, somebody else benefits from that.
Exactly. So you really need to, I understand you want to only sell in 90 days, but listing agreements are, blame it on me. Office of 6 months. We'll do what we can to sell it in 90 days. But do they still own the property if it's not sold in 90 days? Yes, they still own it, so.
The other thing is if you get an offer, it's gonna take 30 days, and if during that time it cancels, now you've got that much time, that's dead time.
Yeah, well, the listing agreement basically said a purchase contract is automatically extends the agreement to the closing date, but you can effectively, again, if they're underpricing their home, probably okay. But here's the thing that I say, so, this is a really good words. The reason you have me here today and why you're willing to hire a professional is you want the most money for your home, correct? Okay, so that's my job, and that's why you have me here, and I take that seriously. We just had that adequate time to do that service, okay? So again, you can do 90-day listings, but my experience in seeing agents doing 90-day listings has not been a very favorable project for them to do. It's a 6-month listing. Now, if you need to sell in 90 days, well, as long as you follow my lead, we'll have it closed in 90 days. That's not a problem. I can get that done. In the worst case scenario, I have 3 investors over here ready to act, and we can close in 10. But that's not why you have me here. So, but 6 months is an appropriate time. But if it's printed in there, it seems permanent, right? And you can negotiate. If it's a more luxury home, you might consider a longer term. I wouldn't do less than 6 months. But you're allowed to. Okay, I don't have permissions here, but trust me, though. It takes, again, more your expenses are up front. Time is expense. Your work, your time, getting all the marketing design, getting the pictures done, determining which pictures are going to be used, write up a script, put it on this website, put it in this, get the sign in the yard, get the printed flyers, all that stuff is up front. And then it's just trying to get the leads that want, consider the property and getting them in the property, right? Any questions? Good stuff. So how do you win at the listing appointment? Here we go. Strategy counts. Consultation. So the first thing is that when you sit down, well, let me, these are the things you should bring with you. Your consultation sheet and notes. So when I said we had that pre-listing, script, asking those questions, are you prepared to hire me when I come? Are you interviewing other realtors for the job? That's on there. I didn't say that earlier. Why do I want to know that? Am I competing with anyone? What's going on here? How much you think your home is worth? What's your updates? Your that notes, your laptop or tablet, so you should show some little bit of technology. Your listing presentation flip book. I just took mine in the other room. CMA and marketing handouts. That's all the stuff inside the folder here. Okay, means a lot to have this stuff. Gonna make you look better, especially if you are competing. And then your actual listing documents. All those are the things you need to go to the appointment. Okay. Strategy counts. Always follow the 4 B's. What are the 4 B's? Be prepared. Review your CMA. Know what listings are going to be more focused on. What you feel the conversation is going to be like. What you think the hot buttons are going to be. What you think the objections are going to be. So that you mentally are ready to roll through the presentation. Be confident. Part of that. Be 15 minutes early. If the appointment's at 11 and you show up at 11, you're not on time. If your appointment's at 11, your appointment's at 10:45. That's how you're going to make an impression. Okay? And then be certain all the decision makers are going to be there. Those are all very important things. If they're not going to be there, then again, you have to revert and go back and try to rearrange that time with them or that appointment time based on the fact that they're going to be the decision makers are present and people can make decisions and we can get the business started. So do a walkthrough tour of the home. So I'm assuming you hadn't done that yet. So let's kind of role play this. I'm going to have all my stuff in my little briefcase, whatever I carry. And I'm going to knock the door. I'm going to be greeted at the door. The first thing, someone's going to let me in. And then I'm going to ask, and I'm almost at this point going to take control. I'm going to kind of scout. And I'm going to see where I think would be a best place for us to sit down and talk business. And I'll be honest, in most cases, it's the dining room table. Okay, they may have a different plan of how they, relax and talk to you, but it is business, and there's a very important reason that you need to have a certain type of setting for business purposes and for your ability to talk directly to them and, get things to happen. Okay, so in a dining room tables are usually not square or round, they're usually rectangular. Okay, so that's really the huge reason. When you sit at the table, a rectangular table, you want to have them both on one. You don't want to be on the end cap, or you don't want either one of them on the end cap. You want to be on one side, on the long side, and they're on the opposite side. So you have the actual direct, just like I have with you here, direct face-to-face communication. Okay. So I'm gonna determine that. I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna say, might we, just sit at the dining room table. But before I do, may I set my briefcase down, and would you please tour me around the home and let me, kind of see the home. And I'm gonna have a sheet. The sheet is a consultation sheet that you should have in front of you when you sit down with them. And at the very top, it says, exceeding the client's expectations, the consultation sheet. On that sheet, prior to going to arriving at the appointment, when I ask those questions of the client on the phone, I'm going to transfer some of the answers to those questions onto the consultation sheet. But inside there, it gives me the ability to walk with the owner of the property through the home and out the back and wherever, and tour the home, and then I take notes. There's only two real things that I'm maybe taking note of when I walk through the properties. Things are deficient and things are superior. Okay? Things are superior to what a home may have of the similar caliber, and things that are lesser than what the average home would have. Now, it's important, especially if you're writing a lot of deficiencies down, that you try to have as many equivalent number of nicer things to say. It's kind of a balancing act, okay? Because people will get emotional if you're having to tell them things that need to be addressed, and that can be very has to be done delicately. Let's say it that way. Okay. So ask the sellers to tour you through the home, and while doing so, take notes on concerns regarding decor, damages, likes, dislikes, which may affect the buyers negatively and positively. That's what you want to do. And it's going to be things physically that, needing attention that's going to cause somebody to have to do some repair work. It could be simply moving things around, more of a staging sort of thing, which is very common as well, because people, especially if they're kind of outgrowing their space, and there's a reason that they're moving on, they're misusing rooms for things that they weren't really intended for, and so the dining room is the exercise room, and the bedroom is the office, and so what you got to do is try to get them to try to put them back together for their intended purposes, because that's going to affect the showings and the desirability. So something you work on. Any questions about that? Okay, consultation. I've already kind of talked about this. If all possible, sit at a table where you sit on one side and the sellers are sitting on the other side from you. That gives you a good illustration, because that is the only way that you can properly have direct eye contact with both almost simultaneously. And it's so important. I'm going to talk a lot. And when I said I talk detail, it is very much detail. Okay. You have to engage all sellers. So here is confirm pre-qualifying questions. determine, confirm hot buttons, determine decision maker, maintain connection and retain control. All of these things are part of this at this point. It's going to be very effective in your ability to get business. Okay, so if you've seen this document or have it, it has a very, 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 very important first question you ask. Here's what I'm going to tell you is, in most cases, and up until that moment, you may have only engaged relatively with one person. There's two of them. So the person that you consulted with on the phone, the person that made the agreement to have the meeting, the person that greeted you at the door to let you tour through the home is the same one. At this point, do you know this at the decision maker? Some say no. Anyone else? You don't know. You have no clue. You have no clue. That could be or that could not be. It's imperative is, so when I say this, and maybe I should have started there, is typically one of the two more prominently positioned to make decisions? Let's ask my wife. So, well, it depends on what it is, though. Sometimes I win. Probably 10% of the time.
You can look at the tax record and see who the owners of record are.
You would, but yeah, so that's important. But when we're already beyond that, we're now in front of them. So, so here's what the first, very, very, very first sentence on that thing says. And what's really cool is there's nothing wrong with you having this thing right in front of you and asking the questions off of it. You should try to memorize it, but if you haven't, you have it in front of you. And the very first question on there, and has or hasn't read it yet, it says, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what I find often, and when I do this, I'm gonna have eye contact across both of them. What I find often is, for the same reasons that you two bought the home, is the new buyer will probably buy it for the exact same reasons. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of curious, what was the reasons that each of you made the decision to buy this home? The last person I'm going to nail with eye contact is the one that I hadn't had any communication with. So when I'm looking at you, am I demanding a response from you? So that's exactly how I do it. So now I'm going to stop and I'm going to just demand a response. And then I'm going to come back and say, so what was your reasons? Could be two different reasons, it could be the exact same reason. So what did I do? I broke the ice and I brought the other person now into the conversation. I required them to speak. I brought in a very intelligent question that opened up that I felt it was important to understand what maybe a really cool things to know why buyers will buy your home. So it worked brilliantly. And that's what happens. And then it goes on to, so when I spoke to you on the phone and I asked you, you know, when the roof was replaced and you said it was 2012, so in that question, what I'm doing is I'm confirming that I have correct information, but for her, it's, wow, this person really took good notes. This person really listened. And so in her mindset, she's going to think very good of me for those qualities. Is that not some qualities of what they desire in the real estate agent they choose and the professional they do business with? So that's what it does. And it's important that I know because I want to make sure that I have good quality information. If you go further down into the document, which is cool that it's sitting in front of you, because I'm going to now go dive deeper into the hot buttons in the document. I almost should pull it up, shouldn't I? It now says further in. So I would just like to understand from your viewpoint, what are some of the qualities of the real estate professional that you're going to choose for hiring to do the job? What are some of the things, what that I should, be quality at doing? And that's the question up there. And you could say, the reason I have this in front of me because there's such important questions, I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Is that okay? Right. They may either act on that or they don't act on that. If they don't act on that, that's okay. Because what I'm going to say, would it be important if I'm a strong negotiator? Yes. Okay. Would it be important that I have aggressive marketing? Yes. Okay. You see what that's doing? It's confirming some qualities. And again, I'm reassuring some things that would really be beneficial to them, but then I'm actually self-serving. Okay. So next important question I have for you, what do you feel, how do you feel, what's some of the things that I should do to market your home? What are the things that you feel is important that might find buyers? Okay. Internet, open houses, boom, 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 boom. So I can inject answers into them if I want, or if let's say they bought the home because they went to an open house. When I say, what do you think are some of the things I need to do? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to lunge at me and say, well, geez, Scott, you better do open houses. That's how we bought this home. And they're going to be a huge believer in the open house thing, right? So, okay, check mark. Okay, so what is, some of this doing? It's helping them understand what they should be looking for. It's helping them be guided to accept the C in me, that's the kind of skill set that I have, that I'm very thorough, that I engage. So we're not even doing any presentation at this point. I'm having consultation. So when I spoke to you on the phone, you said you'd like to have the home sold within 90 days because you were going to move to XYZ. Did I take the notes? Okay. See what that's important. At the same time, I might be, I am trying to aid them to find decision maker out. Because I need to solve this decision maker issue. And that's the one I strategically try to bring the other one in and team me up with the other one to get the one that I need to make the decision and help me out. That's what it's a mindset thing. But I maintain eye contact and control by being able to do that. So you don't have to memorize this document. It's in the package, and it's really nice. It's got a big bold title on the top, so when they read it upside down, it says exceeding client expectations. And that's what you want, right? Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. Now, okay, let's back up. I don't know if there's a missing slide, but so at this time, I go through the qualified questions. I determine decision maker, maintain control. The next thing that I do after that step is I present the listing presentation. There's a reason to this whole order of things. So now I bring out the listing presentation, whether it be the book or the digital presentation. I actually have the digital one here. So it might, I maybe shrink this up and then I open this up and then I say, okay, let me share with you, exactly what I do, how buyers shop homes, how I embrace how buyers shop homes with my marketing to find the buyers, and then, kind of some more detail about all that stuff. So then I'm going to open this up, and first thing is I'm going to let me just tell you a little bit about myself. This is just a crutch, and it's not intended that they stop and read the thing, but it's just a crutch for you for them to glance at, and then you to talk. You summarize. But they see pictures, they see big words, experience, knowledge, dedication. Those are the things that you want them to be focused on. And so you say something about your experience, you say something about your knowledge, and you say something about your dedication. That's all. And then you flip the page. Okay? Let me tell you a little bit about the brand, the brokerage. We've been in business since 18, it's 20 this year. Brokerage in the market for most of those years. We have 5 offices in the market. So we're looking at 10,000 homes as a brokerage. Okay. So at this point, you must utilize your skill set to have, allow for questions. So you should say, any questions about myself or my brokerage? What do you think? Okay, that one probably wouldn't be till later, but any questions about that I can answer about myself or my brokerage? Marketing services. So it's important that I understand how buyers shop for homes so that I can embrace that understanding and be able to tailor it to actual marketing that finds those buyers, correct? So let me first start by saying that 86% of the buyers I know go online to shop for homes. From that, other methods are there, but not so prominent. Yard signs through other people, ads in the paper, maybe, just different reasons, but the huge majority, most people are online. And so let me talk to you about how I find buyers for your home. I have an 18-point marketing system. And then you talk about each one of these little things. When they get to a point where, so if I go across this, and we'll just use an example. If they said, darn it, Scott, we bought this home because we came to an open house. What do you think? They're going to say, what do you think? Open house. Is that a major point? Do you do open houses? Let's see, open house around in this one, but I'm going to skip to the next one. So open house over here, right? Open house, all right. So I'm going to, one of the things I know is important is that I do open houses because you bought a home from an open house. Let me just tell you how great my open houses is. And when you're over here, you can click on that and then you can just talk behavior about open houses. So it's really nice like that. That's what the digital presentation does. Is it lets you blow up any of those 18 marketing points and talk deeper into them. Because now what am I doing? I'm satisfying the hot buttons. Mm-hmm. The reasons why they think that a realtor, the things we should be doing and how we do our things. So I'm now not just an open house, this is a mega open house. And this is how a mega open house is done. And it's amazing. I get 30 to 50 buyers in 2 hours, and we almost all the time get offers the same day. So when you click, it takes you back to this. And so then you can conveniently go to the next tool. Okay, so there's an 18-point marketing system. And then there's more to it than finding the buyer, because once you find the buyer, you have to do all the other steps. But the skills, the service. So they need to understand that you work hard, and this helps you do it. we have to do all this stuff in the first week to coordinate, we have to come over and stage the home a little bit, get it ready for the photographer. The photographer's going to come out and take 65 shots, and then I'm going to pick the top 25 of those. In the meantime, I'm going to go write up a savvy description of the property that will entice buyers to come over and see it, and my marketing pieces. I've got to get the yard sign up. We got to create a virtual tour. We're going to make flyers, all that stuff. And showings are going to occur. And then I may say, so, I try to tailor my services to my customers. And so I'd like to ask you this. Whenever I have a showing appointment, what should that look like when I communicate with you about that showing appointment? Do you expect me to immediately give you any feedback or results of that appointment, or can I give you weekly updates? Do you want me to call you? Can I prepare an email and back it up with a call? What would you expect of me? Because I'm gonna try to customize myself to my client when I do that. Negotiating the sale. There's a lot of factors in going into negotiating, and we'll talk about those. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting them connected with the reality of how hard I really work. And guess what? I don't get paid unless we get all the way to the end, right? Because it's important. We got to get all the way to the end. So negotiating the sale, I'd like to let you know that I've been very involved in making sure I understand the details of terms of every contract to make sure that I'm best positioned to make sure I negotiate terms and put contracts and deals together. It's going to stick. It's going to have grip and actually make it to closing. Doesn't allow the buyers to fluently, get out of things. And I'm very skilled at it, done it several times. And then I know, I'm good at massaging the opportunity to get you a few dollars more in a negotiation, and stuff like that. And I might describe that or give a story about it. And then contract to closing. I am the central component in the transaction to make sure it gets from that point of contract to closing. And so I'm going to be deeply involved in communicating with everyone, keeping them on task, doing their part. That includes the mortgage lender, the surveyor, the buyer's agent, the appraiser, the home inspection, all that stuff. I'm going to make sure they stay on task. That's my job. I'm going to stay on top of them. I will keep you fully advised every step of the way. So you explain that. Determining value. So it's amazing because you'll be able to describe how a CMA is created. So you're educating them on the process of creating a CMA. We determine the value of your home based on these elements. Based on the features, the condition, and the time frame you have. Okay. All of those are components to determining which properties represent determine the value of your home, and that's how it's done. And I may talk in more detail depending on, and I engage them for questions. So actually back up. So when I got done with this was the closing question. So I just wanted to understand from you right now, based on all the things I do to sell your home. First of all, has any other realtor presented such a comprehensive action plan and marketing program to find a buyer? No. Right. Do you feel that myself and Florida Luxury Realty has the best opportunity to get the most money for your home based on this? Yes. Great. So that's a closing question. So it's important that you stop. You don't just keep talking through. You got to stop and get confirmation from them on that going forward, and then boom. So what's great about this and the importance of these slides is the fact that you're educating the consumer on what happens when you price your home. And it reassures them in a way with factual information why it's so critically important that they don't mismark the price in the beginning. Because in this price range, so this, if I was talking my CMA would be right there, my high price, my low price, it's the window. You go outside of that window and, you know, if you go under the window, no problem. You know, we only need 15 days. I only need a 15-day listing agreement for that. But that's how way you have me here. You're not gonna go there, right? But if you go up here, you know, we might need a lot more time, and likely we are gonna be one of those expires like I showed you, because we're just out of the element. You know, there's unfortunate and fortunate, consumers have access. They can make their own judgments and they can understand based on going online and making their own comparison to whether or not it even makes sense. So they may view the marketing, they're gonna look at your asking price, they're gonna look at my marketing piece on your home, and they're gonna make a decision. Is it worth going and seeing or not worth going and seeing? And they're gonna be able to figure it out. Fortunate to me, my marketing is brilliant, and I'm gonna push a lot more than the average agent through the door, and then, you know, they may not make a decision from that, but I'll make sure I pump it up, because I will make your home look like the best home in the neighborhood. And that's my job, and we get people in there, whether or not they bite after that, it's a different story, but if they go up here, it's gonna be really hard. And what happens now as time goes on, buyer interest will drop. They'll question why people aren't biting on your home, and their expectations of you taking a lesser price further out will go up dramatically. Okay, which means you have to sell for less. And in the interim of that, you have all the stress of not having sold, continuously cleaning up your home every 3 days so I can have another showing appointment that goes nowhere, and all the holding costs. Are you really putting yourself in a position that's going to put you ahead of the game rather than accepting the reality? Okay, so I haven't even told them how much their home is worth. But by giving them this ability to understand this, so when I really show them the CMA, you feel that they may have more faith in what I'm saying. See, that's all this does. It's really brilliant that way. Okay, so now I'm going to show them how the showing goes. So first 15 days is the magic number. Well, I've got right now, there's all the buyers that are buying in your price range. They're just waiting for a new listing to show up, and they're making it immediately a determination. So as soon as your home hits the market, they get to see it. They all get to see it. And if it's wrong right then, it's over with. It's over. They just mark it off, and it doesn't happen. So that's why it's so important to price it right, because the magic happens in the first 15 days. If we do it wrong in the first 15 days and we correct it later, we're outside that window, and it doesn't solve the problem that we have. We've created a problem, and it's the same thing that happens here. And that's pretty much the presentation. So now when you have delivered that, do you have any questions? You kind of understand what we do as realtors and how hard we work for you and all that stuff. Now let's look at the CMA. Go back here. Okay. Can you understand why I would do all that way before I did the CMA?
Yes.
And why?
Well, number one, gets the relationship between you and the party that you're dealing with started.
Right.
It gets them to feel a trust in you.
Builds trust.
If they don't agree with your price, they'll turn you off.
Okay.
Listen to you.
And that's right.
But it'll establish your credibility that you know what you're talking about.
Well, then they'll actually listen to you. And here's why, because is it probable, and this is where I say retain control. You know, Scott, but before you go too far, can you just tell me what you think my home's worth? Somebody, one of them could cut me off like that. There's many things that I just learned right then. When somebody does that, they're the decision maker.
What do you think your house is worth? I
So-
turn around on them.
So, but I'm just saying is I just learned, you know, you gotta learn, that's a decision maker. Okay, I appreciate that you, and I did all that work. But if you wouldn't mind, please follow me and allow me to, kind of follow my normal path of presenting it's absolutely there. We'll get to it. Is that okay? I've got to get confirmation. I got to get an agreement. I got to bring them back on task. That's one thing. You got to retain control. They will throw you off in different directions. And then when you know you're going to cover something and it's in there, just ask them politely. I can appreciate that. It's a great point, and I already understand that that's some information that the homeowners, because I do this so much, and so I got that information, and I will be getting to it in just a bit. And we'll continue on, so you want to be able to do that. But if I were to answer that question or come out and say, well, let me just, you know what, and I don't waste time, folks. So I want to, I'm just going to show you the price, because if you don't agree with that, we're done, and I'm not wasting more time. That's not the way I'm saying it. But if I show them the price and they have a different mindset, even though my price is the facts and what really exists and what has to happen, am I going to have their devoted attention and engagement for the rest of my presentation?
No.
Zero. All they're going to do is rip and say your things and get the heck out of my house. I'm done with you because you didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm a test of everything that I try to create for everyone here. So back that listing presentation I just showed you was created in April of last year. The one that came out with it. So, and this is the kind of things I do. I'm like, okay, I need to go test it. So I called in expired. I did it myself, called in expired, got an appointment, and I saw what they listed their home for, or had it listed for, $585,000. You can look it up. It's 8816 Waterman Drive in Crescent Oaks. And so I'm like, can I just come over? Because I wanted to test the presentation. So I did the CMA. You know what my CMA price was? $400. $400. So I got to be prepared, right, for that conversation. I'm not going to tell them anything different. So my price range was $375, $425, $400. Kind of a unique home. It's on a lake. And it's kind of more of a back in the woodsy type home. It's kind of a retreat style home. It'd be good for vacationing with the family. So I go on an appointment and I get to try out this thing, and I get to the point showing them the CMA, and I had no problem saying this, and because I'm getting ready to show them 400. And I'm ready to see their reaction. I'm like, okay, so I'm about ready to show you how much the market says your home is worth. And this is the moment whether you either, accept what I'm going to say or you're going to ask me to leave. Trying to joke with them. And then I flipped it over and, they both turned white, really white, and not very receptive. And I just gave them a moment. And I'm like, what, the date is there. I showed you. So After some conversation, we agreed to list the price at $450. I didn't follow my rules, so I listed this thing at $450. But the presentation worked. And I've tested it, good for the agents. So I said $450. That was just over a year ago. So in the course of 6 months, it had one offer in about 5 months in, negotiated at $435 with the inspections. The home didn't survive, it fell apart. And then they took a break, but they went from $585 to $450. That was a pretty, to move the radar that far was a pretty steep thing. But it wasn't enough. It really wasn't. It goes back to show you, but we did relist it at $435, and it is under contract at $425, so, which was a high number. And we're waiting to see if it survives the appraisal, which I'm still concerned about. But
So
the whole time they're paying, just to kind of show you, they have a $340,000 mortgage. That's went on a whole year.
Do the math, that could have been 50 or 60 or 70,000.
Well, it goes back to being able to explain to people, don't throw this away to throw that away. So if they would have listened to me even at 400, it would have been long gone, no stress. They didn't even live in this thing anymore. And there's no way that they would walk out of it differently, because now if that appraisal comes in weak, you're still got a problem. You're still going to be beating it, but we'll see how that goes.
Were they represented by a realtor before?
Yes.
At $585?
Yes. Well, it just shows you. But it was, it was a huge thing when I look at them like, I don't know where they got the number from, but I got to go in and tell them. Got to tell it to them. So, but the thing that I want to say is to go through that presentation and have a more in-depth conversation about how this thing works, what happens when you don't do it right, what do you expect to happen. And then when I got to the CMA, if I didn't, here's what I got to say. If I didn't do that part of the listing presentation and stopped and said, this is how I find buyers, and then I went and looked through CMA and because I spent an extra amount of time on the conversation about that because I knew that was going to be a problem. So they at least had a big engaged trust in what I was saying by the time I presented it. And so they didn't quite come down to the marker, but they came significantly closer. And that was a huge amount of money.
They had suffered through it before, showing their house for all the time. So that was helpful.
Yeah.
And then expired.
So, yeah.
It would be good to know what their mortgage is beforehand too, because I assume that would be a big
Well,
resistance factor.
you ask them because you do a seller's net sheet,
Yeah.
so you tell them how much they get. And we have an automated seller's net sheet for that stuff. So very valuable that you consider using the tools that we provide you. That presentation will, help you over and over and over again, earn more opportunity, earn it right, meaning that you'll make more money. You'll have customers that are more satisfied as well. So, okay, presenting the CMA. So whenever I presented the CMA, I don't have it in front of me, but I usually pulled out a thing called a yellow highlighter, and then I started flipping the pages. So I talked a little bit, and here's a report I created for you. It benefits you. It provides us the evidence to show facts about the value of your property. Facts about the value of your property. Understand that we don't make the market prices. The market makes the market prices. The buyers make the market prices. All I am is a delivery of the information. I'm only delivering the information. I'm gathering and delivering it, right? So, depending on what you use, if you're not using raw MLS sheets, but the way I did it, I would flip it so they had the MLS sheet right side up. By the way, I used, I don't know if MLS really prizes you for it, but I use the actual broker versions of the MLS because I wanted them to know how much the commission was and all those aspects as well. So I flip it, and the first thing I would do is highlight the address and the word expired or active or whatever. So there was a method of that. So I put the active ones and the pending ones and the sold ones and then the withdrawn and expired. The last ones I would talk about. So this one's on the market. This is the address. It's this many square feet. So I would just hit that. I knew exactly where everything was. And then when I studied it before I went, I would know anything specific about that property that enhanced its value or deflated its value that I needed to share. So it could be that they just gutted the entire inside and like rebuilt it from bottom up, and I wanted to be able to tell them that that's what went on, and that's why they're achieving the price they're achieving, something different. And we could do that too. You're ready to get the demolition company over here and do this kind of stuff. So market stats, basic amenity, size, location, condition, and then something in the presentation. And then I would say, do you have any questions about that one? And then I would flip it and do the exact same thing. Boom, 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 boom. And then I'd flip through and do it. And so it might take me 15 minutes. So I would have approximately 3 of each. 3 actives, 3 pendings, 3 solds. And the solds were really the establisher of value. Actives don't establish value. The actives are the ones we're competing with, so I would show them all of that. But the sold ones were really the most valuable piece of that. And that's what I would do. And then I would get to the last one, and I would say, okay, based on all of this data, this is where your home is valued. And then I would flip it. And then I would talk about that. If you looked on that page, I don't know if I got it back. If you notice, you flip to this page, it has that same chart that's in the presentation, so it keeps them wrapped around that. These are the numbers that fit inside this box, those 3 numbers. You go up here, you're over here. You go down here, you're under here, right? So I bring them back and reestablish that. So this is the top line, the middle, and the bottom line.
And this is a CMA format from our back office. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about, Scott, what was in the back office of the script, because I thought you said something about.
This is in the marketing material.
Okay, because I said that was different than they did on RPR, so you did.
Yeah,
that.
we don't do the CMA here. It just makes this cover page
Oh, okay.
and this page.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you do your CMA in the middle. So you manually put in the,
Okay.
but it just brings all the stuff together and keeps a cohesive branding, and it connects them back so that if you utilized everything correctly, and then when you get to this page and they're looking at it, they're relating to the same stuff you just told them, and then their price is in the corner here. That makes sense? So that it just really confirms and establishes and push it back right into the.
What CMA format?
I'm sorry? That should be under the seller marketing. Yeah.
What CMA tool do you recommend?
I don't, because I don't do them. Well, the answer to me is raw CMA, raw MLS.
Okay.
I just went in MLS and I just I circled the space, geographically, and I just clicked on them and I'm like, yes, no, yes, no.
Okay.
So I'm kind of old fashioned on that. So. They didn't have all the stuff you have now, though. Strategy for presenting the CMA. Utilize the CMA as a tool for value, which also confirms that successful sales happen when certain requirements are followed. Home sell when what? Home sell when what? We don't know this stuff.
They are priced.
When they're priced right, they got quality marketing. They have a quality agent that does their job and follows through and is there when people are making the request to see. Homes don't sell when they're not priced right, when the marketing's poor, or the real estate agent is not serving correctly. And those who have been doing this a while already know that when you have worked with a buyer and you're trying to show a home, some of the struggles you get once in a while trying to get them set up to make a lousy showing appointment through the realtor.
Don't make me phone somebody, please.
Okay.
I might never show the
It's
house.
sad, very sad, because you have to say, poor seller, you know, if they only had me, it's not good, so. But price right, strong commission, from commission. That's where commission. Home sell when they're priced right, strong commission, when they're presented well, which is marketing, and then, you know, I will also add in there when the agent's doing a great job. Homes don't sell when they're priced wrong, low commission. Buyers, I'm going to show them, well, you know, it's overpriced and they offer a low commission. The homes that sold, priced right, high commission. Okay, it's all relative, right? Any questions about that? Okay, great. Document signing. So now I show them the price, and I'm saying, so, you know, can we agree that we start the list, you know, list price sheet 460 and get started? You know, I think we're good with that, Scott. So I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to write 460,000, and I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to say, so, you know, your name's correct. This is the address is correct. My commission 6% plus $250. 3% is going to go to the agent. You understand this is exclusive right to sell, which means if this thing sells during the term of this contract, I get paid. If there's any latent defects on the title, you're responsible to clean them up. Initial here. What didn't I do? I didn't even really, I said the word commission, but I didn't really say, let's talk about how much commission I'm going to get. I said, this is what the commission is, sign here. Oh, wait, Scott. We gotta talk about this. You must, I mean, now you want 6% commission. You know, Joe said 5. Oh, okay. What's gonna happen then? See, now we're dealing with objections.
Talk about your value.
Well, I'm gonna say, okay, well, you know, that is customary on the commission. And, I mean, is there anything that I didn't share with you? You said you felt really good at, you know, when I showed you my marketing, my 18-point marketing, you said was the best of all. Is there anything that I missed or should have shared with you? And I may flip back my book and the whole page is going to be right there. Because now I've got to overcome this objection. Could I just say, well, what is Joe going to give you? 5%? Okay, I'll give you 5% too. If you want to, that's okay with me, but I don't feel that's what I'd like to see you do. If you're that weak at negotiating for yourself, is that also a demonstration of how weak you're going to negotiate for them when you have a buyer offer? So I think I wouldn't do that. See, so I would be, you know, that's great. And, you know, I'm glad you brought that up. It is the customary amount. Is there something I should review? Can we go back and review it? And I'm trying to work with you here. You know, I do a lot more service. Can you see that? The service, does that potentially bring us to a point where I'm likely to get more money for your home. Sell it quicker. All these things also mean money, right? More money means more money to you. More selling quicker means more money to you, less stress, less effort on your part. That's really what should be most important, is what you walk away with. And I can get you to the closing table walking away with more money. So, we're just not going to do that, Scott. It's going to be 5% or nothing. Okay, so you got to learn how to negotiate for yourself. You need to learn how to do it. So we do have a one-page flyer that shows, I think, 6 marketing services on it that you could resort to and pull out, right? Which is the basic marketing plan. So there is, this is the skill set part. So you could get to a point where you say, okay, it's for me to be able to change the amount, because there's a lot of expense in the marketing and creating it, putting it out there, managing it, and all that stuff. So obviously, you already told me my marketing plan is like 3 times more than the other at 5%, but you still expect me to do it for 5%. And say, well, here's what I can tell you. So you understand that commission is split, right? So if I put it out in the MLS, if I help sell the property and then there's another agent involved, we each get half of that commission. So we agree to that. So I'm going to get 2.5%, and the other agent's going to get 2.5%. Okay, so we're okay with that. So that means you're okay if a buyer's agent is being paid 2.5% then? Are you okay with that? Okay, great. All right, well, so if I have to reduce my commission, which means I'm going to have to reduce some of the things that I do, some of the marketing, which may not bring as many buyers to the home. I'm trying to work with you here because I see that you'd like to hire me, and then I can pull out the one-page sheet and say, well, if I have to reduce my commission to 2.5%, then this is the 6 marketing items that I'm going to give you. And you feel as strongly that I'm going to be able to sell your home as quickly now? Okay. Am I going to get every buyer in the market to look at your home? I'm trying to help you. Okay. Would you reconsider the fact that it makes a lot more sense to do this, 6%? You say no?
Yeah.
Okay. So I still haven't, okay, no problem. Here's what so you said you do 2.5 for the buyer's agent. And it's really hard because I know how powerful and how valuable this really is for you, the customer. It's for me not to take away any of these 18 things I do. So could we do this so that I don't have to take away what I know is going to help you? Can we agree that I do all my marketing, don't have to sacrifice any of that, and then the buyer's agent gets their 2.5%, which means I still get my 3%, so we're at 5.5%. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's do that. Do you see what I did? I still established my commission at 3% for my listing side, because at 5%, isn't it already probable that the buyer's agent should get half and 2.5%? So I'd be able to bring that and explain that, and then bring them back and say, now we're only 0.5% off. So it makes no sense to give up over 0.5% to get all this value. I still go 5% and go shortchange it, but almost never will that happen. So the probability of walking out, because if they're negotiating with you, what does that already mean? They want to choose you. See, you got to read through the lines. They want to choose you. They've agreed that they want to choose you, but they want the other person's rate. They don't want the other person because the other person isn't performing like you are. They know through the presentation you gave, through the consultation that you gave, through the CMA that you gave, you are a better agent. And now you just have to, sell them to pay for that level of service and get them to understand and agree to that. And if you really want that level of service, that's what you pay for it. You don't want to say it that way, but you want to establish it. Now, seller's net sheet, yes. So in our back office system, let's go here. So if you go in, for the agents here, so if you go in here, just kind of everything is here for you. So if I go in, log in, so if I go to forms, seller forms, or I can do the wizard, both of them do this. But this thing right here, boop, in about 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute, I can have a beautiful page that has all the figures on it. It all does it all for me.
Okay.
And it tells you, so you have to ask them things like how much, what do you owe on your, what is the balance of your property mortgage? So if the seller's name, I'll just throw that in. So I can put, and so this only works with two prices. So you kind of put a range of what you think the home's going to sell for. So if it's, you think it's going to sell between 120 and 130, so you'd put in 120, 130, and then you can change this, put 6%. You could fill in any of these figures. You could put in other. And then let's say their mortgage balance is $83,000. I really probably wouldn't do that. The closing date, so you guesstimate a closing date out of 60 days or 90 days. So today being the 6th, I'll go forward. I'll just say, let's say we're going to potentially close there. I know the annual taxes are $1,850 or $1,850. Bam. And that. Calculate. And then it gives you that.
So would you use that?
You should have this as part of your paperwork.
Okay.
Because you want to be able to, they should want to know these numbers. So based on the fact, so then you can look at this and say, assuming that we close, somewhere around the end of next month. And if we were actually to, agree on the sale price of $120,000 based on your balance of your mortgage, your taxes year to date, and all the fees, paying me and stuff like that, you're gonna leave the closing table here. Or if we get to 130, you're gonna be here. So if we get to 125, it's gonna be like the number right in between $30,500 or something. So when you are working with a seller and an offer comes in, you should do one of these with the offer. When you go to share that with the seller, you should say, if we accept the price offered, if we, and you use your intelligence and negotiating skills to say, I think we could probably counter at this amount. And if we succeed at negotiating, then we'll go here. And that's important so that they know if they accept the contract, kind of what those numbers will look like at the closing table. So the mortgage is paid off, the commissions are paid, the title insurance, taxes, and then their check is roughly $40,000 at the closing table, or $36,000.
When do you find out what their mortgage is? Like, when is that a preview appointment?
Well, it would be one is you can ask them before you go out and say, you have a balance on your mortgage, approximately how much is the balance? Because I do a net sheet that tells you your walk away money so that you kind of know what that is.
Okay.
time. So we're almost done. If no more objections, then pull out the documents. If the seller responds with objections or asks, here's one, if they ask to have time to think about it, that's an objection. That means they're not convinced. They're not convinced, you gotta say, obviously, obviously you're not sure that I'm the right one for the job. I'm actually right here, right now, and I'd be happy to address whatever that concern is that is in your mind. Would you please just share it with me, because I want to make sure I do an amazing job for you. Whether or not they're willing to do that's another thing, but you have to make that effort. Because when you walk out that door and you don't have that listing paperwork signed, your ability to possibly get that business is close to zero. It may happen, but it's closer to zero than probable. Request to deal with the objections, handle them, document signing, share the details, point for initialing and signing, move past the objections. What are the two biggest objections? What are the two biggest objections in a listing appointment?
The cost of the home. Wait, pricing.
The list price and the commission. So the seller believes our home has more value than the actual market value. The seller expects you to work for a lower commission. So knowing that, you have to be very skilled at handling the objections for those two things. And all that dialogue is in your documents. And no matter how they say it, you have a way to respond, walk through it and past it, or address it head on. So, what does this mean for you? You should learn those skill sets to talk past the objections, or handle them at least in a manner that's acceptable to you and earns the opportunity. Here's some more valuable tips as well that you may or may not accept as my recommendation. I think that providing a pre-listing package is a bad idea. What is a pre-listing package? It could be almost like printing out your PDF listing presentation and sending it to them pre-appointment. Why would that be a bad idea?
Then they got all their information. Yeah, they got everything.
So now they don't have,
So-
is there any reason to actually meet with Scott now? Because he said, this is what I do, this is how I do it. And then Tiana has an appointment to actually sit down with him to do it face to face. So who's gonna win? Tiana's gonna crush me because all they're gonna do is take that reading material, pull out things, what they want from it to induce, and share with her to see what her responses are.
Mhm.
And she should be able to overcome everything that's in that paper copy. And I don't have any way to go there and to defend and handle objections now. So I'm probably never going to get that business. If you want to give them a little information, but if you give them it all and then expect that why do I even have to have an appointment with you now? I don't even understand why, I have to even sit with you. You've shared with me everything I thought I needed, right? Whoops. Use social media to learn about the sellers prior to the appointment. How else can that value you?
How they have kids.
If you learn who they are, and what they like to eat, or some things that you could have commonality with, then you utilize that as a conversational tool to connect with them. That's why. Take personal interest in the seller's needs and desires. And it's really about them. and about the things they need to see happen. And you need to listen to those things and, work towards ensuring that those goals are going to be met, and that those are the most important things that are going to be done. And when you do that, then you're going to learn that you'll earn the opportunity, and your needs and goals will be met because of it. So don't focus on yourself, focus on them. Practice, and practice perfecting your appointment. So you need to role play it with someone, get yourself proficient at it. Hopefully you followed my guidance on exactly how it should be done. And I can assure you 110% confidence that it will make a huge difference in your success over the time that you do this business. Absolutely. Any questions? Anything? As we always say, when's the perfect time to implement the strategies I taught you in class today?
Now.
Right now. So, all right, thank you. So we ended right on time. Appreciate it. Hopefully that was helpful. If you need any guidance on the information part of it, if you just go in the back office and go to Ask Lexi and type listing presentation or listing appointment, all the stuff you need for this. As a matter of fact, there's a video in there where I talk about as if I'm the customer through every page of the listing presentation, and then I tell you the value points as a real estate agent and what it does to help you. So
yeah.
very good. Thank you.